Good morning, everyone, and here we are. It is Wonderful Wednesday, and welcome to this morning's 9 o'clock morning sales step up. So there's me and there's Pirate Pete as always. We're going to be with you for the next 10 to 15 minutes talking all things sales. And actually this morning, I'm going to be talking all about voicemails, which I think is a really interesting one, especially at this precise moment in time while we are in lockdown number 2. So if you're joining me for the first time, I am live every day at 9 a.m. I am here to tell you whatever is going on, some hints, some tricks, to give you a bit of sales inspiration to start the day. So if you're here joining me, give me a hello in the chat because I can only see you if you say hello. I can see Nick's joined me already. Lovely to see you bright and early. We will only be a few minutes. We're going to be about 10 minutes all in. And these are some of my top hints and tricks. So as always, we are going to put 10 minutes on the clock. Here we go. Pirate Pete's going to keep us to time. And let's make a start. Let's get going about voicemails. Now, what's really interesting here is that my thoughts around voicemails have changed recently. I know, who knew? But guess what? Everything else has changed, so we're entitled to change our mind as the world changes around us. Hi, Tom. Hi, Alison. Great to see you there. So generally, I would normally say if you're calling a company and you hit a voicemail, don't leave a voicemail because you can always ring back. You know, so it's really easy. Whereas if you leave a voicemail, actually, you're waiting on them to call you back. And to be honest, what that means is you're sitting like this. Please ring me back, please ring me back. And then when they don't ring you back, it's like super awkward. You know, it's like that thing. Because then when you do get to speak to them, they know that you know that they didn't ring you back. So it's like awkward, isn't it? Hi, Bryn the gin man. So it can be really super awkward. And I think, so my view's always been, look, unless you've got a booked call in the appointment, call. Don't leave a message because you can always ring back. Easy, you know, it's not a challenge. But something's changed. And what's changed is that increasingly people are working more mobilely. They're working in a mobile fashion now. They're working from home, so on and so forth. They're working off their mobile phones. And what that means is a couple of things. Now, the first thing it means is that if you're calling people on a mobile, they might already know who it is that's on the other end of the phone. They might know because you have rang them before, in which case it's going to pop up with your name. They might know because actually a lot of phones do this smart thing now where they can work out who it is. If I ring someone, it actually pops up and says Buzztastic. How cool is that? Or is it? Because now it means that they have the chance of going, I don't want to speak to her, and avoiding my call. So there's two ways of looking at that. So there's definitely a few other things to think about here, because I think there's 4 or 5 different things you need to consider if you ring a mobile phone. The first thing is they might know who you are and they might choose to ignore you. Now, if you think this is the case, you need to go back and watch yesterday's live where I talk all about being ghosted, all right? And we'll talk about what you can do about that one, because that is a slightly different thing. But the other thing is that it might come up and actually say that you are suspected spam. It might come up and say that it's a private number. It might come up and say that the number's withheld. So for all these reasons, it might be that people make the choice not to take that call. And what it definitely means is they may well see that pop up and choose not to take it because they don't know it's you. So actually, all of a sudden, it's a little bit of a different situation. Hi, Louise. Lovely to see some people coming on. We've got a full house today. We've got quite a few of you coming on this morning. So lovely to see you. So I think there's a little bit of something different that we need to consider there. We need to consider that if we're going to ring a mobile phone, they might make a decision based on what comes up on a screen, and what comes up on a screen might not be helpful to us. So make a decision. And my hot tip would be to always make a decision before you even pick up the phone. Are you going to leave a voicemail or are you not? Now, if it's the first time of ringing a company, I would suggest still don't do it on the first time. Call a couple of times before you actually do that. But sooner or later, you're going to want to leave a voicemail. So what on earth should you say? Because what you don't want to do is leave a voicemail that leaves you twiddling your thumbs, waiting for that person to come back to you. So I've got a couple of ideas around this that you might like to have a go with, which actually I use when I'm making calls out with. The first thing is that before I pick up the phone, I've actually quite often written down my message. And the reason for that is because otherwise I get a bit flustered. You know, when the voicemail message kicks in, and I'm like, it shouldn't be a surprise, but it is every time. Does anyone else get surprised when you get a voicemail and you're like, I don't know what to say, and your mind goes blank, and then you leave like a really, really, really terrible message? Like, honestly, is it just me that does that? If you do it as well, let me know in the comments. Make me feel not so alone. So think about what you're going to do, and maybe actually write out what your message is going to be. This is also really important, because if you don't do a good job on the voicemail, then you are going to end up in this situation. So what should you include? Well, the first thing you should obviously include is your name. Now, I would actually always suggest that you give your name right in the very beginning, and actually again towards the end of the message. And the reason for that is because it gives people 2 opportunities to get your name. Yes, Alison, not just me, I'm feeling so much better now. So I would always give your name, but give your name twice, once at the beginning of the message and once towards the end. That sounds super awkward when you say it, but actually you'll find it's really, it comes really naturally, and I'll give you an example of that in a moment. The next thing to think about is, why are you ringing, and why should they want to speak to you? Now, this is really important. If they haven't got a really good reason why they want to speak to you, or that they've never spoken to you before, so they're thinking, well, you know, why? You've got to give them that answer. You've got to fill in that blank for them. So what could that be? Well, this is one of the reasons why I always suggest that you plan this in advance, because it means you can come up with something amazing that's going to really help you out there. So you could say something like, you know, I'm ringing in follow-up to some recent information that you've received. I always quite like that one because it's a little bit vague. The other thing is that information you've received means that they could have requested it, or actually it could be cold marketing information. But the point is, think about, what is the reason? What is the reason? The other thing that you could think about is, you know, I'm calling with regards to some savings that we can offer you on your telecom solution. You know, give them a reason, give them a benefit. It's even better if you can hook in somebody else that they already know as well. So, you know, I'm calling at the request of Fred around, you know, XYZ, around your telecom solution, around what gin you're currently stocking, Bryn, whatever it might be. The other nice thing about this is to keep it quite short. You don't want to give it all away. The thing is, sometimes you can end up doing a whole pitch on a voicemail, and they decide they don't want it, and now they're just going to block your number, because this is the thing with mobiles. They can block you now. Yeah, Bryn, that's a great job as well. That's a great message as well there. So let me just actually pop that up on screen. Can I do that? Here we go. Yes. I always forget I'm giving the option to re-record the message so I could get rid of the ums and ahs. This is a great point. If you hang on to the end, if you just stay on, if you make a mess of it, then sooner or later it'll normally say, if you're happy with this message, then put the phone down. Or if you want to re-record it, press 0. That's quite often the button. Or sometimes it's star or something like that. So if you do mess it up, you're right, Bryn, you can always take a second go at it. That's a cool trick. All right, so we're going to make sure we leave our name. We're going to make sure that we give them a great reason. And this is why you should think about it in advance, because otherwise you come up with something on the spot which isn't always as good as it could be. The other thing that I would always recommend is tell them when you are going to speak again. So tell them when you are going to call them back. So I would be saying, as you're not available, I'll call you back tomorrow at 2. I'll call you back this afternoon at 1. If a different time would be better for you, or you prefer to contact me direct, my number is. But tell them when you're going to come back to them. That's really helpful. It's really helpful because all of a sudden that's like now a thing. It's now a thing that you've like agreed almost, because it's on the voicemail. And then that allows you to do my super special secret follow-up. Because once you've done that, oh, that was Parrot Pete giving his morning buzz. He's told us, like, that's it. Okay, so my little super special secret just before I dash off is that if you do leave voicemail, I would always recommend that you follow up with a really brief email. And that's really helpful, because then what you can say is, follow my voicemail message. Our reference there, we'll give you a call at 1 o'clock this afternoon. If you prefer a different time, just let me know. Alternatively, I look forward to speaking to you then. Victoria. There's a couple of things around that. The first thing is, if I ring up and get a gatekeeper and I'm asked that question, is he expecting my call? Guess what? He's expecting my call. So I can say yes. So it means that if I don't end up on a mobile, or if I am going back through that gatekeeper system, actually I've now got an expected call. Yes. It means I'm going to get straight through. That's amazing. The other thing is you'd be really surprised how often people will actually reply at that email and say, look, you know what, 1 o'clock doesn't work for me, but I can do 2. So that's, again, really helpful, because by giving them a little bit of control over when you potentially ring back, actually you get them to tell you when they're going to be available, and that means they're going to take the call. So that's super exciting as well. So my hot tips are, think about, is it a landline or is it a mobile call you're making? Decide whether you're going to leave a voicemail message. Put your voicemail message down in paper in front of you before you do it. And this is great, especially if you can do a batch of calls. Come up with a couple of variations. Have a go with it. Remember to include your name at least twice. Give people 2 opportunities to catch it, at the beginning and at the end, because quite often at the beginning, people don't always catch everything you say. Give them a great reason for your call. Tell them when you're going to follow up with them. And most importantly, send an email following up and giving the opportunity to change that if appropriate. That's your little secret weapon. Hey, that is just flown by this morning. So that is everything that, everything that I have to say about voicemails now. I'd love to know how it goes with you. Let me know how your voicemails go today. It's great to see so many people joining me today. I am here every morning at 9 o'clock throughout lockdown number 2, 9 o'clock live on LinkedIn, myself and my co-presenter, Pirate Pete, who makes sure that I'm not here for 3 hours. So if you want to be notified next time I go live, just make sure you've hit the follow button at the top of against my name, and you'll get a little pop-up notification just after 9 tomorrow morning. It's been lovely to see so many people join me here today, so I'd love to see you again tomorrow. Until then, happy selling. Tomorrow we're looking at sales questions, so you definitely want to be here for that. Thanks so much and have a fantastic day.